sweet air of victory.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Do you remember
Mm-hmm.
back when we decided that we were going to add a third leg to the tripod of the FunBelt podcast?
Yes. We had a third leg. And that
From the East.
Yeah. Had good insight, but wasn't always here. So it was just us for a while.
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
It was. And so we found a third leg that is very consistent,
Right.
highly decorated, adds so much
Prize
legitimacy
winning.
to the show.
Yes.
Pulitzer Prize winning
Yes.
and everything else. However,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, Jeremy,
Yes.
the third leg of the tripod has been MIA since Saturday night. There have been no messages from this mystery person. There's been no text messages, no phone calls.
Ghosted.
I did not get any DMs. I mean, not a damn thing, Jeremy.
What happened to this third leg?
I don't know.
Something horrible must have happened, right? Something terrible, probably something unexpected.
I think so. Shane, how do you do, sir?
How's it going? I'm just checking my DMs, make sure that they went through, because I remembered being in communication with people, and
I realize that sometimes it's hard to spell my name. I get it, Shane. I completely understand
It
that.
is difficult to spell Thibodeau. Yeah.
I know how my week has been since Saturday night.
Yeah.
Not getting to bed till 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't even know how to write this game recap. I sat there just staring at my screen going, in classic Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. And I really didn't. So Shane, please fill us in on the other side of this, and I will continue to bask on the backside of you telling us about JMU's fall from grace Saturday night in Malone Stadium.
I was also up till like 2:30 in the morning because waiting for to get the video of the press conference and everything. I don't think they sent it till I got on the plane. So I feel you there. Otherwise, I think you are a lot more emotionally invested in this than I am.
Let me tell you something. I have no idea how Shane feels, Tibbs, because I haven't felt what he has felt since like 2005. It's been that long since the Warhawks defeated my preferred team in the Sun Belt. So, man, Shane, tell me, what is it like to have the Warhawks beat you? I mean, the Warhawks, oh my God. They're supposed to win only 2.
I'm drinking.
You're acting like I'm
even drinking the tears of JMU.
We need to get an actual JMU fan on here.
Wow.
You have severed your emotions. I get that. You're a member of the press, dispassionate. You're just reporting on the facts. That's true. That's absolutely true, Tibbs. But Tibbs, why don't you describe your was it joy? Because what a game. I mean, it was a slobber knocker of defense, right?
It's the way the Warhawks have been all this year. I mean, there's still the offense is MIA. I mean, Ahmad Hardy had the great run in that contest, but the true difference was the somehow blessing of a muffed punt that turned into an 82-yard fumble recovery for the scoop and score. And that was the real difference of the game, because from that point, that's when the Warhawks had the lead, didn't look back. JMU was able to cut it to 14-13, but that was really it. And so I think that if nothing else, that game showcased just how good this ULM defense is, that they're able to keep one of the more explosive offenses of the league in check. I do still have concerns, even going forward, as we talk about a future game for the future episode. I still have concerns about, as much as I talked with Scott Watkins and everyone else from Southern Miss, whether or not this ULM offense will be able to move the ball or do anything against Southern Miss even. The offense it's getting better, and I don't want to lay blame on any one component or the other. It's not the receivers, it's not the running backs, not the line, not the quarterback. I feel like all the pieces are there. It's just not clicking yet.
Yeah, you got to score
All
points
that,
of it.
all that to still say, Shane, I did think of you Saturday night, though, while I was staring at my screen going, man, I'm glad I'm on this side of it.
Shane, what happened?
Well, a couple things.
Okay.
Well, let's go back to the little bonus episode Tibbs and I did. One of us came a lot closer to predicting how that game was going to go than the other one.
Oh, the
Tibbs
Tibbs.
said it was going to be a massive blowout. He had no hope for the Warhawks.
That is not a true story. I said it's either the JMU blows their doors off or ULM wins an absolute squeaker, I think was my exact quote.
Maybe. I predicted 28-13, which if JMU goes in and scores after that muffed punt,
yeah,
it's probably what the final score ends up being, as opposed to, giving up the touchdown on the fumble. So let's just say we were both pretty close to predicting how that one was going to go. Because
now it looked like it was going to be a kind of a blowout. It was like 10-0 before I even blinked. I was in Jones,
without a doubt,
Arkansas State. It looked like, all right, here's James Massing doing what they do, which is score a lot of points, and then also no points were being scored. Shane, did that defense, like Tibbs talks about the defense a lot? I've watched that defense a little bit. I can't quite put my finger on why it's so good. What did you see out of that defense?
Defensive line is really good, and they talked about it on the broadcast. It's like, in some ways, it's like a JUCO all-star team, and that's one way to kind of turn that roster over so fast. And you can get those guys at JUCOs and bring them in. They can play right away. They're already big and strong. They've been in college weight rooms for a while, and they threw JMU's offense off, not only because JMU didn't do a very good job blocking them, but they blitzed heavily. JMU was jumping in false starts all night long. And I don't know if that was like being confused, if it was like seeing those blitzes coming and flinching or what it was, but that was a major problem. And JMU's offense, when they were really clicking 2 weeks in a row, they were running tempo. They were not giving the other defense really any chance to set up. They weren't giving them a chance to like call those blitzes and things like that. And they couldn't do that against ULM. And I think you got to give their defensive line a lot of credit for that. And to go back to Tibbs' talk a little bit ago about the ULM offense, I wouldn't worry as much. That quarterback switch was easily the right move. Like, I think that's evident now at this point. And the thing that really, really impressed me about Brian Vincent and stuff is like, they're not great at quarterback yet. I mean, but what are they doing? They're getting him out of the pocket. Like, they're moving the pocket around. Like, he never just dropped back and passed it. Like, they play to his strengths so well to get enough out of the passing game to make up for it. I mean, it's really reminding me of those Troy teams that have won the conference the last 2 years. Like, really starting to remind me of that kind of style and maybe the ability to do the same thing.
Well, Shane, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I had a great follow-up there on something Shane said. You mentioned that it's really kind of the JUCO all-star, and I think that was really their emphasis, was they wanted the guys that, for the most part, when you get a JUCO guy, you're going to have him the 2 years, maybe 3 years, if it's the funky math and all that. Do you feel that that's the key that's really made this ULM team gel together, is they're kind of the older, mature guys, and they have the thirst to play, as opposed to getting all these D1 transfers like most people are getting out of the portal that are really just kind of looking for that paycheck, so to say, of the NIL. They're looking for whatever it is that makes them happy, as opposed to these junior college guys coming in and, hey, we got to prove ourselves. We got to get better. And we.
Yeah. I went to junior college. I know what these guys are like, and they generally fall into like two categories. They're either screw ups, and that's why they're there, or they're really hungry because they didn't get an opportunity, or like, maybe they had to fix the grades or something, but they really want to get back to where they think they ought to be. And yeah, I mean, those guys, if you recruit the right guys out of JUCO, you can find some really good players. And it's kind of an untapped market right now because everybody's looking to the D1 and the FCS and even Division II transfer portal. And there's a lot of those guys out there. I mean, especially in Mississippi and Kansas and Texas, all these places where ULM can recruit.
You know, what's funny too, it's almost an old-fashioned way of fast-tracking a team. Because you're right, we've come to the point where we can fix a team with the transfer portal. And Tibbs, you kind of hit on it. A lot of times the guys that you're getting out of the transfer portals are the malcontents. The guys that, something didn't quite work out in their last place, whether it was NIL money, whether it was playing time, whether, they ran afoul with the coaching staff. Now they're moving on. These JUCO guys are kind of what Shane said, hungry guys. They've been in that college weight room for a couple of years. They know how to play the game of football. They're just waiting for that chance. And Brian Vincent seems to have struck gold in that.
I also just want to point out, Shane, that we know you were just the hungry guy in JUCO. You were not the screw up.
I was like, they're really going to pay for my school to run cross country, guy.
So, all right, let me ask you guys this. I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. Ask Tibbs the question. What is the mood amongst Warhawk fans now? They come into the season with, I think Shane and I chortled quite merrily over this. 1.5 games they were supposed to win. We struggled to find what would be that second win. Now they have 4 wins. They're 4-1. They're atop the FunBelt West. What's the mood amongst the fans?
As I said in another show, and I give a shout out to the great Sean Fox of the Monroe ESPN affiliate, I think Warhawk fans have PTSD. Every time in the past that they've started buying in and wanting to believe in this program, that it just goes to hell in a handbasket. And I think that people are buying in out of the words that Bryant Vincent's really started selling this program, that John Hartwell, the AD, has started selling the program again that way, that people are cautiously optimistic and maybe kind of at an arm's distance, kind of starting to buy in a little bit more on this program. It also helps that you have that big win off of James Madison last week, and then it's homecoming. So you have all this hype coming in with another home game and an opponent that, at least on paper, you should be able to pretty handily beat, to kind of reiterate that, hey, maybe the Warhawks are for real.
Like to see 20,000 people show up to a ULM game. That would be cool. Shane,
well, according to James Madison, there were 20 people there.
All right, let's go back to James Madison a little bit. This is a damaging game, not just for James Madison, but maybe for the FunBelt itself. James Madison kind of was in that position, always in that graphic. Who from the G5 can make it into the college football playoffs? You got that Duke symbol up there. They always had the high FPI. They come into Monroe probably expecting a win, rightfully so, because the Warhawks are going to Warhawks. It doesn't happen. What is the mood amongst the fans right now?
It was not good on Saturday. It was a lot of everything's out the window type of thing, which I don't. It's all kind of wait and see. My point at that point was, I don't think any one-loss team in the country, maybe with the exception of Oregon State and Washington State, because I don't know if they have a path not playing in a conference, but is any one-loss team in the country really out of it at this point if you're talking college playoff? Because, they all have a chance to win their conference, and if you do that, you're in the conversation, right? I mean, eventually one or two of these G5 leagues are going to separate themselves probably, but I mean, I don't think anybody's really out of it at this point.
So is Bob Chesney then on a curb stomping mission where he has to kind of get out there and just destroy every opponent out there to say, hey, what happened was not JMU football. This is the JMU football right here.
I mean, I think it'll be really interesting to see what kind of execution they bring on Thursday against Coastal, because I think that was a big part of it, is they didn't execute very well. They committed a lot more penalties than they usually do. Just losing, as I said, they were losing one-on-one matchups where if one guy holds his block a little longer or one guy sheds a block, they're making the play and they're just not. We're getting 10 out of 11 sometimes, and that was a problem. And, I think it's less about like them coming out fired up or even like physically dominant against Coastal and the rest of the opponents as it is like, let's see if they like just really execute on Thursday and took it as a lesson.
Well, did you see like maybe there was a weakness exposed to JMU?
I still feel like the offensive line's been inconsistent. They dominate for a couple weeks and then, just didn't look very good on Saturday. And I was
tempo or because of the physicality, you thought?
Maybe both, but I think they overcome maybe being a little less physically dominant up front by playing the tempo they want to play. And you can't do that if you're getting penalties.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Well, hey, Tibbs, were there any other games in the Sun Belt last week?
Nope. Only one. Good. Thank you and good night.
What a great show. And now it's time for promos, punts, practical jokes. No. There was
exactly. No. Yeah, there were definitely other games. It was good to see Texas State come out and rebound on the Thursday night, getting the big win against Troy, 38-17. Jordan McLeod doing Jordan McLeod things. Since Darren Granger's here, I guess we can now move that saying over to Jordan McLeod, right?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah.
All right. Guys, is Troy done for, or is this the expected outcome that we had for Troy, thinking that, they lost a lot of talent, they're going to rebuild, but this just wasn't going to be their year?
I thought a lot of people pointed out at the beginning of the year, I think they even got a first place vote or two within the coaches poll or whatever in the Sun Belt thing, that they'd be in first place or whatever. And it was a lot to do with how well they did last year and sort of the expectation of Troy to never sort of lose momentum, just to continue to reload. And it seemed like a lot of those people who were saying that did not look and see just what kind of players had left Troy. And I think maybe some of the confidence that we saw in Jared Parker when he sat down with us at Sunbelt Media Days. I mean, he seemed like he was ready to just take what he had and dominate. He just seemed to be oozing with confidence. So I think there was some expectation that Troy was going to be better than what they were. I think maybe Parker and the team could have done a better job of maybe softening this death blow a little bit, because there's still a lot of big talk, I thought, coming out of Troy at the beginning of the year. But let's face it, they just lost too many good players. I think that in a lot of ways, Tibbs, Troy is what ULM was supposed to be. They might have trouble winning 2 games this year.
Yeah, I watched Saturday early in the day because it happened to be on ESPN Plus. A good chunk of the Tulane UAB game, which was interesting on a couple levels for us, is one, how badly did UAB screw up not hiring Brian Vincent? And two, you see John Summerall's Tulane team playing pretty well, and they pointed out something in that broadcast is the past 3 years John Summerall has started 1-2 and then not lost since then.
Oh,
and I think like for Troy, maybe there was even like a little bit of that feeling like, oh, it's just going to happen again. Like we'll start 1-2 and then we'll get it together and we'll go. And they're just not there right now. And we joked last week too about Bob Chesney and Brian Vincent. They're making it tough on the other first year coaches.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of truth to it too. I mean, it's not easy to do what those two programs have done as far as turning over the roster like they are. So I don't think it's panic time for Troy yet. It's not going to be a pretty season, but I think, you got to give them some time to get it back together.
But on the other hand, Bobcats with a win, they did, like Tibbs said, they bounced back, after that horrendous choke with the Bearcats. There was a good chance that maybe you would see some of that spirit just sucked out of the Bobcats. But they get back in the win column, and all is right in the world for the Bobcats.
Yeah, another big game that was a little bit of a surprise. Marshall beating up on App State. I know
Wow.
that App State, and I don't want to pick on App State at all because I mean that whole area is going through a rough spell right now. The
Yeah, Tibbs,
fact that
don't
they
be a
were
son of a
even,
bitch. All right, just kind of just take it easy. Good God,
I
it's a
mean,
tragedy.
the fact that they were able to make it there, the fact that they
Yes.
were able to even get the game in and play, they were competitive in it. But with just everything going on, Marshall rolls to the 52-37. How about, though, Braylon Braxton starting at quarterback for the Thundering Herd, 129 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but then he ran for 140 with 2 touchdowns on his legs.
Yeah, Stone Earl was a healthy scratch for that game. Coach Huff was like, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Earl. We're just going to go with Braxton here." And wow, what a shot in the arm that offense had with that. And then I'm seeing that I could be wrong about this, but I'm hearing that one of the wide receivers for Marshall is hurt, and that Braxton might be moved to wide receiver this game. So I guess this guy is like the most versatile player in all of college football, with the exception of the guy from Colorado.
Did you get that from like one of Luke's quote or tweets?
Maybe
Because I read it wrong the first time too.
Okay, so I read that wrong.
I read it as like him talking about moving, like Braxton saying he would move to slot, but he was actually saying that somebody else would move to slot. And
Yeah,
I read it wrong too. I originally was like, "What? He's gonna not play quarterback this week?" But no, I think.
You think he's going to be back at quarterback? Okay.
One of us should message Luke and find out for sure. But
all right, we need an emergency message to Luke to clear this up because we don't want to be spreading misinformation. But Tibbs,
no, I read it the same way the first time through. I was like, "What? Like, why would he play in the slot?" But no, I think he was talking about another receiver.
All right, I could be wrong about that. So Tibbs, is Appalachian State? Is this a matter of what's going on outside the gridiron that's affected them? They didn't look good even before Hurricane Helene. So I don't know.
But I think the lack of practice and just the emotional toll it's taking, I think is really the big difference. I still think that this team is good. I think they're talented. I think they can compete. I just don't know if they have it mentally in the cards to really be able to go out there and lay it down between the lines, which I hate because, I mean, this is Joey Aguilar's final year, Caden Robinson's final year. Who knows? Maybe it's Sean Clark's final year and he's off to the P4 somewhere. But I hate to see it out of the Mountain State. Jeez Louise. ULM beat JMU. I can say whatever the hell I want to say.
Just call them the Mountain State.
The Mountain State. Blue Mountain State. They're going to have a great season this year.
They played the game Mountain State.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I just hate to see App State really on that struggle bus, knowing that is really kind of the face of the conference. They had a lot of hype coming in this year, and I really thought that they were going to be in contention for the East, unlike what we saw in previous seasons. So it kind of hurts to see one of our favorites there struggling.
The two teams that are sitting at the bottom of their respective divisions, Appalachian State and Troy, played for the conference championship last year. That's pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy to look at. But Shane, does that mean that Huff and the Thundering Herd are legit contenders in the East?
We'll see. I just think like it's still a mystery to me, like what App State was even able to do this past week. I know they got there and they got to play the game, but Sean Clark's also talking about how they were volunteering. They were out, handing out water, and some of the guys were trying to find apartments and things like that. So
wow, it's
curious to me, like just how much they even were able to actually prepare for this game, and they got it played. And and give Marshall a lot of credit. I did not think they were going to score 52 points. I thought they might win because of those reasons that we just don't know what App State was able to do the past week or 2 weeks even. But yeah, like I don't know about Marshall yet. We'll see. I think the quarterback switch was definitely a good move, and I'm
Unless
interested.
he's moving back to wide receiver, Shane, and in which case we don't even know.
I'm interested to see if that's like a sign that that offense has finally figured out a way to put some points on the board.
It got weird in Old Dominion country. Actually, they were in Conway, but it was still America's weirdest team, Old Dominion, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, falling to Coastal Carolina 45-37. No Wilson, though, at quarterback. Instead, they go with Colton Joseph. Not a bad debut. 262, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Ethan Vasco, though, he's got to be one of your top quarterback performers of the year. Another 300-yard game, 3 touchdowns. Guys, I think we were all wrong about Coastal Carolina. This team seems like they're pretty legit, and they're going to be contenders on that eastern side.
Yeah, we're probably wrong about. I'm going to admit I'm probably wrong about Coastal Carolina, but look at what went on with ODU. We're talking just now about how Marshall made a quarterback change and got some instant offense. Look at ODU putting in the freshman. He didn't just throw for 3 touchdowns. He also ran one in. He totaled 4 touchdowns, which is something that we haven't seen out of ODU in a long time. So even though they lost that game, they might have found something to get them through the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really like Tim Beck talked about this the other day too. It was really like a big momentum shift at the end of the first half. Like that, otherwise ODU kind of, played at least toe to toe, if not were outplaying Coastal for chunks of that game. But, Coastal gets 2 big touchdowns really late in the second quarter, goes to halftime with the lead, and they never give the lead back up. But I mean, it was a really competitive game.
Yeah, and going back to Coastal, Tibbs, I mean, I think amongst the 3 of us, I was the maybe the downest on Coastal, and maybe part of me still am. Part of me is like, I don't know if Coastal's for real or not. They get a really good game this week. We'll see about that. But that being said, Ethan Vasco, he's the real deal. The guy knows how to lead offenses down the field. The defense, maybe not always, maybe not as sharp as it used to be, not as big and as strong as it used to be in the trenches. Still manages to get it done. They're 4-1. That's just a good team. Hats off to Tim Beck. I thought it was going to be a really down year for him.
Jeremy, in the game that I saw, which first of all, I'm highly disappointed that your seats are in the upper deck of Centennial Bank Stadium.
Okay. It's really a good yeah.
B, it scares me that there's another one of you.
That's my brother, Rick Steele.
And C, what did you see out of the Red Wolves as they were able to down South Alabama, what was it, 18-16 in that game?
Well, one, we saw a defense that we didn't think we had. Quite frankly, that game was won thanks to the linebackers and the secondary. That really sort of put a chokehold on who's the great quarterback for South Alabama?
Gio Lopez.
Yeah, thank you, God. Suddenly had a brain for Gio Lopez. I don't know. He looked like he might have been suffering from a little bit of that turf toe injury. Didn't do as much running as he normally does. But Arkansas State defense was able to bottle it up. So that was really impressive to watch, to see that defense play. And second, this is the second win. And really the third win that they've had where they've had to come back from behind. But the second win where they had to do a 2-minute offense to get into scoring position and win. And that tells me that the Red Wolves, if they're in the fourth quarter, if they're in it, they don't panic. It's kind of, I was kind of making fun of the Bobcats because they've had opportunities to win in the fourth quarter and they fall apart. It's like they kind of lose that they forget how to win in the fourth quarter. Arkansas State kind of remembers how to win in the fourth quarter. Jalen Rayner seems to get his mojo going when the stakes are at the highest and the time is at a premium. So, really impressed with the Arkansas State Red Wolves. shutting down a team that put up 87 points a couple weeks ago, put up 48 points on Appalachian State and Boone. So feeling pretty good about Arkansas State.
I'm impressed that they kept Fluff Bothwell under control. Like, I mean, I really like thought he was like kind of on the way to an all conference type of season, and which we need because we don't have Boogie Knight in the league anymore. So we need a guy whose name sounds like he was in Boogie Nights.
His name sounds like he was in Boogie Nights. How long have you been sitting on that, Shane?
I just put it all together just now.
That was gold, man.
I've been thinking like there needs to be a joke made about his name at some point, but I just put it all together right now.
Oh man, that was perfect. That was a perfect joke. Yeah, and he looked good at times. He would burst through the hole and create some damage. He was catching balls out of the backfield. The kid is going to be a talent in the Sun Belt, provided he stays in the Sun Belt. We know how things work out. But South Alabama still looked fast, still had size. I think that the team is pretty good. Just Arkansas State playing at home just had their number, had the advantage. It was a good win for Butch Jones and his group. And like 4 other teams in the Sun Belt West, 1-0 or are undefeated in the conference. So it's pretty tight up there, Tibbs.
It is, and another team that is undefeated in Sun Belt Conference play, Louisiana Lafayette gets their first win in 13 years in Hattiesburg against Southern Miss.
Wow.
Southern Miss held to 177 yards of total offense. They had 8 total first downs in the game to the Raging Cajuns 22.
Oh my God.
The scoreboard doesn't necessarily show that it was a whooping because it was just a 23-13 game. But that's a whooping when you start looking down at the stat line like that.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those classic 2014, 2015 Cajun wins where they just hold on to the ball forever and make you cry because you never get the ball back.
Yeah, I feel like Ben Woldridge is kind of a feel-good story that we're not talking much about right now. He's back starting. He's putting up good numbers. They're winning. Like, this is a guy who I think, I don't know, we wrote him off like a year ago, right? That, he was kind of done and he's there. He's got the job back. Like, congrats to him. And Southern Miss needs somebody like that because as we said, like they still cannot like figure out what they're doing at quarterback.
They got that Tate Roadmaker, and they were some thought that him being the alum from Florida State, we found out Florida State was a very good place to come from, I guess, just isn't doing the job. And I think we had discussed it last week that Will Hall's a bit of a quarterback whisperer, but he's not whispering anything into these quarterbacks. Something's got to give, Tim. What is happening? And you must be licking your chop knowing that the Warhawks get to receive them on homecoming.
We'll have to talk about that in our next episode, Jeremy, but I will say this. Tate Rodmaker sacked 5 times. So he had 6 rushing attempts for negative 34 yards. He lost just about 6 yards every time he touched the ball on a rush.
And I want to say one Cajun put up 4 of those sacks. I can't remember the
Correct.
name.
Defensive player of the week.
Yeah, okay. All right. I thought that was pretty crazy. That's a lot of sacks for one game. So that I feel like the Cajuns, that's another team, by the way, that I was a little down on. I was like, don't really see them making this big jump because I felt like they weren't that good last year. They seem pretty good, guys. I think that they're going to be a pretty damn good football team.
So we know the Warhawks are the surprise of probably the Sun Belt and especially on the West. Is there any other team that you're really kind of looking at going, man, I surely did not see that one coming?
Like in terms of good or bad?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we all agree that Appalachian State's a surprise. They just don't look that good. I'm not even talking about because of the hurricane, which they have every right to don't have their head in the game. Even beforehand, they looked really shaky. To see that they're not playing well is a little bit puzzling. I'm a little, who benefited more from Vanderbilt's win over Alabama than Georgia State, guys. I mean, it kind of was felt like, oh, well, you beat Vanderbilt. I mean, congratulations. Who doesn't beat Vanderbilt? And they go on to beat number 1 Alabama? Holy shit. Why is everybody not talking about this, Shane?
I mean, about the Georgia State angle of it? Like,
Yeah.
Because they still haven't wrapped their mind around Vanderbilt beating the Alabama part and enough to look at who else they played.
Oh, Georgia State fans.
Did you see?
Yeah.
That Vandy is raising money for their $100,000 fine by selling sections of the goalposts, game used footballs, I think jerseys. A football though is $500, and like a section of the goalpost was like going for upwards of $1,200.
Wow.
I get it that it was a win over Alabama, but $1,200 for probably a 2-inch by 2-inch square of goalpost. I might just put it in some crypto or throw it to our friends at Bet Online and see what we can do.
They went to they've got the funds.
Yeah. You would think somebody would say, hey, can you break a $200,000 bill? I mean, come on, it's the SEC. What's $100,000? And they have to raffle off chunks of junk to get those funds. I don't get it. Somebody else is getting ripped off that, Dibs.
It's not me, I can assure you that, but I do usually get ripped off by everyone's plug promo and parting shots. Shane, please tell us about the DNR online.
Oh, Shane.
Parting shot is, you guys probably saw today, they released like the new dates for the transfer portal.
Yes.
For mainly for basketball and football. And the basketball one, I think it's okay. I mean, it's never going to be perfect. It's after the NCAA tournament started, so at least like the people who get in there, like most people's seasons are over by then. Makes a little sense, and you're probably not jumping out into the portal if your team's head to the Sweet 16. So that makes a little bit of sense. On the football side of things, though, they're opening it up for a couple weeks in December again, and then a week in the spring. And I don't get why college football continues to have their off season and their postseason be at the exact same time. Like it's like they want coaches and players to leave before their seasons are done. And the analogy that I made is like, if you look at the dates, it's from like, middle of December to December 20 something that the portal's open. And if you look at the dates and how they coincide with the college football playoff bracket, it's the same as if the NFL opened up free agency right before wild card weekend and closed it after the divisional round. And also everybody is a free agent because like they stopped doing contracts. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me, like that they want to do all of this at the same time. You got to have a postseason and then an off season if you want people to care about this sport. Because we've already seen it happen time and time again. People don't feel like they can play in the postseason because they've got to make moves that's best for them and their careers and their families and everything else. Like, just push it back a month. I don't get it at all.
Yeah. Why do you think they chose it then? Because it seemed like there was an obvious solution there, and they didn't take the obvious solution. Why would they not do that? What was the benefit of keeping it in December?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, people want to be able to enroll at their next school, if they're a mid-year transfer. But, I mean, I just saw something the other day. Memphis was talking, Penny Hardaway was talking about, like, oh, they might still get another basketball player. It's October.
It's a month away.
Yeah.
We might get one more guy.
If they can do it, then like they can probably still get somebody in the school if they decide to enter the portal on January 2nd, right?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy that he's already talking like that.
See, that
was a solid parting shot, Clibbs. You owe Shane an apology.
I'm sorry that my team beat your team, Shane.
I haven't done exclusively plugs in quite a while.
That is very true, and we're damn proud of you for that. I'll go next. I'll give the Shane Metlin special. Warhawk Report. We are breaking down this week's homecoming game, hoping to not fall for the rat trap of Southern Miss. It's previewed on warhawkreport.com. We also had a good members chat with Athletic Director John Hartwell. That summary coming up soon of what all is going on inside Warhawk Athletics. So be sure to check it out, warhawkreport.com.
Very Metlin-like. Nice job. All right, so does that mean I get to end the show with my ranting and raving?
Of course.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about something that I don't think it just came out, but it got some buzz today. And it's something called, was it Project Rudy? Have you seen this, Shane?
Rudy.
I left this one for you when I decided to rant about something else.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm looking at this thing, and it shouldn't be called Project Rudy, which, if you know the story of Rudy, it's about this undersized underdog that, through grit and determination ends up getting one play in the big time. And that makes it, but this Project Rudy is anything but that. What Project Rudy is, it's run by a couple venture capitalists and some ex Disney executives, right? And they've got a plan for what they said will save college football. And that is to take the 70 richest teams, put them in sort of geographically sensible divisions, and make it to where they would never have to play the Group of Five or FCS programs ever again. That was the solution. And they're so proud of themselves, this little collection of wealthy investors and Disney executives. They're patting themselves on the back, talking about how they're going to save college football, these 70 programs that don't need saving. These guys have plenty of cash. There's nobody needing to save these guys. If they're in any kind of trouble, it's because of them, not anybody else. It's their fault that we're in this fix. But here are these rich guys wearing their banker vests, coming down out of their private planes, pledging to give $9 billion to this league. You got the AD of Miami saying, yeah, wow, it's a great idea. We should do it. Of course he should do it. It's a money grab. That's what the Power Four is for, right? Grabbing cash. And if there's one thing you should be really worried about when you read this story from Yahoo Sports, a guy named Ross Dillinger writes it. I don't know anything about Ross Dillinger. I'm sure he's a great writer. You know how many times the Group of Five is even mentioned in this article, Shane?
If I'm remembering right, it's just the once.
Twice. 2 times it's mentioned. Once when they say, oh, you'll never have to play the Group of Five again. And the second time they say, well, we might include a Group of Five and a 12-team playoff, but only because there might be some pushback from some small state legislatures who are like, we're not going to approve this bullshit at all. So that's the only 2 times that the Group of Five is mentioned in an article in an effort to say we're going to save college football. I'm calling bullshit on that. Everybody should call bullshit on that. It sucks. It's despicable. The rich are getting richer. We shouldn't let it stand.
Well, you know what? You complained about it being called Project Rudy, but the movie was bullshit. And Rudy was a con artist.
I hated Rudy. He was a con artist?
He got some financial issues with his stuff later on.
You know what? I'm going to give you one better. I've never watched Rudy.
And now you've ruined it for us all.